let's talk about the future. It's a tricky thing, right? I mean, how do you even begin to plan for a world that's constantly changing? We've got climate change, massive economic shifts, the list goes on. The challenges are just huge. And the stakes? Well, they couldn't be higher. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the tools that scientists and governments are actually using to try and get a handle on all this uncertainty. And really, it all boils down to this one question. How do you prepare for something you can't possibly know for sure? You know, the old way of doing things, just trying to predict one single outcome, that's just not going to cut it anymore. So instead, researchers are now exploring a whole range of possible futures. And this is the key difference. We're moving away from prediction and into the world of scenario planning. Think of it like this. A prediction is like trying to hit a tiny bullseye on a dartboard, in the dark. But a scenario? That's about flipping on the lights and illuminating the entire target. The goal isn't to be perfectly right. It's about being ready for a bunch of different possibilities. Okay, so to get everyone on the same page, scientists came up with something called the Shared Socioeconomic Pathways, or SSPs for short. What are they? Well, you can think of them as 5 detailed, plausible stories, narratives really, about how our world could evolve over the next century. And each of these stories presents its own unique set of challenges for both mitigation, that's, how we fight climate change, and adaptation, which is all about how we cope with the impacts that are already happening. So what do these 5 different futures actually look like? Let's take a quick tour of the pathways. We've got everything from a sustainable green utopia to a world of fierce regional rivalries. First up, we've got SSP1, also known as the Green Road. I want you to imagine a world that decides to prioritize human well-being over just endless growth. In this future, countries are actually working together. Inequality is shrinking, and we're pouring money into education, health, and clean technology. It's a story of sustainable prosperity. Then there's SSP2, the middle of the road. This is basically the business-as-usual scenario. The world keeps muddling along following historical trends. Progress is made, but it's really a mixed bag. Some countries do great, others get left behind. It's a future that probably feels pretty familiar, with all the same challenges and contradictions we see today. Now, SSP3 takes us down a rocky road, and it's not a pleasant one. This is a fragmented world where nationalism makes a huge comeback. Countries turn inward, they focus on their own security, and global cooperation just breaks down. This leads to conflicts, a stagnant global economy, and, as you can probably guess, environmental protection gets pushed way down the priority list. SSP4 paints a picture of a road divided, a future of really extreme inequality. You've got this global high-tech elite that's thriving, enjoying all the benefits of automation and a connected economy. But at the same time, a huge majority of the population is left behind in a low-tech, low-wage world. The gap between the haves and have-nots grows so wide that the social fabric starts to tear. And finally, we have SSP5, taking the highway. This is a world that puts the pedal to the metal on economic growth, and it's powered by an abundance of fossil fuels. The attitude here is basically grow now, worry later. There's this massive faith that human ingenuity and technology will come along and solve any problems we create, including, a massive environmental mess. It's a really high-stakes gamble. Okay, this table is where it all comes together. See, on the green road, SSP1, the challenges for both fighting climate change and adapting to it are low. Makes sense, right? And on the rocky road of SSP3, both are incredibly high. But check out the fascinating trade-offs in the other scenarios. SSP5, the fossil-fueled highway, the challenges to mitigation are sky-high because emissions are out of control. But because they're so wealthy, the challenges to adaptation are actually low. They can just build their way out of problems. And SSP4, the divided world, is the total opposite. Mitigation challenges are low, not because of green policies, but because of low growth for most people. But the challenges to adapt are incredibly high because most of the population is poor and vulnerable. So these big global stories are pretty interesting, but you might be wondering, do they actually matter in the real world? And the answer is a resounding yes. Let's zoom in now and see how these big ideas are shaping actual decisions on the ground, at the national level, for entire industries, and even in tiny communities. Our first stop is New Zealand. Their forestry sector is a massive part of their economy, and it's also a key player in their climate strategy. So how can these big global SSPs help them plan for the future of their forests decades from now? Well, the difference is just staggering. Look at this. In the fragmented, rocky road world of SSP3, New Zealand's forests could actually shrink. But in the high-growth, fossil-fueled world of SSP5, their forests could more than double in size. We're talking about a massive swing that would change everything, from their economy to their biodiversity to their carbon footprint. So what's the big takeaway for a policymaker in New Zealand? This framework shows them that in almost every plausible future, their forests are going to expand significantly. That kind of insight is absolutely invaluable when you're making long-term plans about land use, economic development, and environmental policy. All right, from forests, let's turn to farms. Let's look at another critical piece of the puzzle: nitrogen fertilizer. It's totally essential for feeding billions of people, but it also has a pretty significant environmental downside, polluting waterways and contributing to greenhouse gases. And again, the range of possibilities here is just wild. In a sustainable world, an SSP1 world, we could actually cut our nitrogen use down to about 85 million tons. But in a resource-hungry SSP5 world, it could balloon to 260 million tons. That's a nearly threefold difference, and it has absolutely massive consequences for the health of our planet. It's just a really stark reminder of how the path we choose today shapes the world we get tomorrow. So we've seen how SSPs can help a whole nation and a global industry plan for the future. But can this tool work on a much smaller scale, like for a single town? Well, to find out, let's head to a small community called Forest in Australia. And what happened here is so cool. The people in this town didn't just passively accept these big global scenarios. They took the framework and used it to create their own local pathways. They were inspired by that sustainable SSP1 style vision, and they started planning for real, tangible projects: a community-owned microgrid for energy independence, an effort to become a research hub for climate resilience, even new models for co-housing. It just goes to show that this framework isn't just a top-down tool. It can be a tool for empowerment, helping people plan the future they actually want. Okay, as we zoom back out to the big picture, it's really important to remember that these scenarios aren't carved in stone. They're part of an ongoing, evolving conversation. As our world changes and as our understanding of it changes, the scenarios get updated. And here's some really good news. This timeline shows how our projections for a business-as-usual future have actually gotten less scary over the last 20 years. Why? Well, because we're making progress. The renewable energy revolution is absolutely real. The cost of solar and wind has plummeted. And climate policies, as slow as they sometimes feel, are starting to bite. It's a powerful reminder that the future isn't something that just happens to us. We're actively shaping it. Ultimately, this gets to the real heart of why scenario planning is so powerful. And I think this quote from the philosopher Roy Bhaskar just nails it. The whole point of the SSPs is to force us to see that the way things are right now is just one of many possibilities. They open our minds to a much wider range of futures, both good and bad. So here we are. We have a map of possible futures, each with its own unique landscape of challenges and opportunities. Science can draw the map for us. It can show us the different paths we might take, but it can't choose for us. That part, well, that's up to us. So the question is, which road will we take?